One of the greatest difficulties in discussing school corporal punishment is that pain cannot be measured in the same way as height, weight, or temperature. There is no universal scale that can accurately tell us how much another person is suffering. Two pupils might receive precisely the same punishment from the same teacher, yet walk away with completely different memories of the experience. Pain is deeply personal. Medical science can measure physical reactions. Researchers can observe changes in heart rate, blood pressure, brain activity, and the release of natural chemicals such as endorphins. These measurements reveal that the body has responded to injury or stress, but they tell us very little about what the individual actually felt. The experience itself remains private. This helps explain why memories of school punishment differ so dramatically. Some former pupils remember a caning as one of the most painful moments of their childhood. Others recall it as unpleasant but short-lived. A few even describe it as being less painful than injuries suffered while playing sport or climbing trees. None of these recollections are necessarily wrong. They simply reflect the fact that every person experiences pain differently. Some people naturally possess a high pain threshold. Others feel pain much more intensely. Experience may also play a part. Someone who has suffered serious injuries during childhood may later regard school punishment as relatively minor, while another child with little experience of physical pain may remember exactly the opposite. There is also the question of adaptation. Several former pupils who regularly received corporal punishment admitted that, although they never welcomed it, they gradually learned how to cope with it. They developed ways of controlling their breathing, remaining calm, or simply refusing to show emotion. For many boys especially, the greatest fear was not the pain itself, it was crying. In many schools, particularly during the 1950s, 1960s, and 1970s, boys often judged one another less by the punishment they received and more by how they reacted afterwards. Remaining silent under the cane became a matter of pride. Breaking into tears could lead to teasing long after the punishment had ended. The emotional challenge frequently outweighed the physical one. This introduces another important aspect of punishment that is often overlooked. Physical pain is only one form of suffering. Psychological pain can sometimes last far longer. Many former pupils have admitted that the anticipation of punishment caused greater distress than the punishment itself. Waiting outside the headmaster's office, hearing footsteps approach, or watching classmates return after receiving the cane often created intense anxiety. The imagination frequently proved more powerful than reality. Others remember the embarrassment of punishment more vividly than the pain itself. Being called to the front of the classroom, standing before classmates, or knowing that everyone was aware of what had happened, could leave lasting emotional memories. In some schools, these feelings influenced pupils so strongly that they willingly chose corporal punishment over alternative penalties. At first glance, this may seem surprising, yet many schools allowed older pupils a choice between several punishments. A detention lasting several hours, hundreds of lines, or a Saturday morning at school could consume valuable free time. By comparison, 6 strokes of the cane might be over in less than a minute. Several former pupils openly admitted they preferred the brief physical pain, not because they enjoyed it, simply because it ended quickly. Others made exactly the opposite choice, happily accepting hours of detention rather than facing the cane. Neither decision necessarily reflected bravery or cowardice. It simply reflected individual personalities. Needles provide another interesting comparison. Many people have no difficulty giving blood or receiving injections. They barely react as the needle enters the skin. Others become anxious long before the procedure begins and experience genuine distress despite knowing the discomfort will be slight. The physical event is identical. The emotional experience is completely different. This demonstrates how closely the mind and body work together when pain is involved. Fear, expectation, and previous experience all influence what we feel. The same principles almost certainly applied to school discipline. One pupil might receive 6 strokes of the cane and remember little more than a few minutes of discomfort. Another might remember the same punishment for decades because of the fear that preceded it or the humiliation that followed. Neither memory invalidates the other. They are simply different human experiences. As attitudes towards education changed during the late 20th century, increasing attention was paid to these psychological effects. Critics began arguing that even pupils who were never caned could suffer anxiety simply from knowing the punishment existed. Supporters responded that this fear was precisely what made corporal punishment effective as a deterrent. Whether that argument was correct remains open to debate. What is clear, however, is that discussions about school corporal punishment cannot be reduced to questions of physical pain alone. Fear, embarrassment, anticipation, pride, resilience and memory all played their part. Understanding corporal punishment therefore requires more than measuring how much something hurt. It requires understanding how differently every child experienced exactly the same event.